$5 for this, and then COVID came, and I wanted to buy and get one, and there wasn't any available.
I was very honest with my neighbours during COVID.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. Welcome. Nice to see you. So the topic today is, what are the chosen people chosen for? So we know that the Jewish people, we are called the chosen people. In Hebrew, they call it Am HaNivchar, the chosen people. This is perhaps one of the most misunderstood and maybe controversial ideas about Judaism. We are chosen. Perhaps this is something that caused some people will say maybe this is part of what caused anti-Semitism or persecution, that the Jewish people perhaps, view themselves as superior. But we're going to actually dig into that today and see, is that really what it means? When you say the Jewish people are the chosen people, what does it mean? So just to sort of open up the discussion, if any of you would like to share, what is it, when you hear this idea that the Jewish people are the chosen people, what does it mean to you? What do you think? What does it arouse in you? Does it make you feel uncomfortable? Does it make you feel special? What is it?
Special, for sure. I've had the opposite of what you said. When people would be down on you for that, I've had lots of Christians be really positive towards me and really embracing and understanding and educated me, to be quite honest, to realise my true purpose. So
That we are special.
yeah.
I've always thought there's a group of people God chose to be closest to. I don't know, that's what I always thought.
Yeah.
I think I agree with that. The feeling of that.
More responsibility as well.
More responsibility.
Definitely.
Yeah. To be precise, we'll see 606 more levels of responsibility. We'll talk about that soon. Cyril, what is it?
I would have said responsibility as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here are the questions we're going to be discussing today. What does it really mean to be chosen by God? Where did this idea come from? When did this start, and where does it come from? What are the Jewish people chosen for? How does this mission shape our purpose in the world? And then all of that, we're sort of hyper-focusing on the Jews. But if you think about it, the Jewish people are only around 0.2% of the population. So what about the other 99.8%? What is Judaism's view on the nations of the world? And do they have a unique role or purpose? And if yes, what is that from Judaism's perspective? So a big task to take on, but let's see. We're going to be learning how to sit in the Torah to see what this starts. So to give a bit of background, I would like you actually to jump into text 1.3. This is, the reason why we're learning this now is because we just started the book of Deuteronomy yesterday, Devarim. This is the 5th book, which is Moses, right before he passes away, he tells over sort of his will, his last wishes to the Jewish people. And in there are a lot of quotes about the Jewish people being chosen. So there's this really, really fascinating idea where he says in 1.3 that he tells the Jewish people, you are standing today, all of you, before God, to enter a covenant which God your God makes with you today. This is in order to establish you today as his people, and he will be your God. I do not make this covenant with you alone, but with those who are here with us standing today before God our God, and with those who are not here with us today. So Moses is saying that this covenant that God made with the Jewish people wasn't only for that generation, the people who are standing there today. Rather, it's going for all of their descendants forever to come, including us. We are included in that covenant to be chosen as God's people. So it started already back then. It really started actually, as we'll see soon, way back when God chose Abraham as the first Jew and his descendants. But then it was formalized by the giving of the Torah. That's when it was sort of, the stamp was made formal that the Jewish people were chosen. So we'll see from the verses what that actually means, what was the evolution of it, and what it means. So let's begin actually with text, go back to 1.1. And we want to understand, again, what is the source? Where does this idea come from that the Jewish people are chosen? So, sure, would you like to read? This is also from Deuteronomy, Devarim.
It was not because you were more numerous than all the nations that God desired you and chose you, for you are the smallest of all nations. Only your forefathers did God desire to love them, and he chose their descendants after them, you from all the nations as it is today. For God chose Yaakov for himself, Israel as his treasured people.
So we see from here, definitely, that it says that God chose us, but it doesn't say why. In fact, it says why not, but it doesn't say why yes. It says he didn't choose you because you are stronger. He didn't choose you because you are more numbers, because in fact, we are the smallest nation. And we've always been and we always will be a small nation. That's just the way it is. And in fact, if I can just show you this, I was just chatting with my father-in-law before, and he showed me this really interesting video, which is really gives you a bit of the chills. Tell me if you can see it on your screen.
We were destined to be so small.
Can you see the screen or no?
No.
No, okay. So try this. Need to share the new screen.
We were destined to be so small and not to grow.
Well, look at it. Can you see the screen now?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
At the time of the destruction of the temple, there were about 6 million Jews in the world. To put that into some perspective for us, there were about 13 million Chinese in the world then.
So by the destruction of the temple, there were about 8 million Jews and about 13 million Chinese. Okay, this is roughly almost 2,000 years ago.
Today, there are 1,600,000,000 Chinese in the world. The Jewish people we're 15, 16 million. There should be 1 billion Jews in the world. The Lord told us at the beginning, it said in the Torah, that you're going to be the smallest of all people. Now, the smallest of all people is not meant to be a curse, God forbid. It's a challenge. It's an opportunity. And because we are the smallest of all people, every Jew counts. Everybody's an actor. We have no audience. Everybody's on stage. And therefore, the fact that such a small people that has undergone such experiences has not only survived but thrived and had such a disproportionate influence on all of humanity, that is a sign of God's hand, so to speak, operating in the world. And that's what the prophet meant when he said, you are my witnesses. The fact that you're here, that's my witness that I'm running the world, that I'm part, that you can't do it without me, so to speak. But I think the lesson of Jewish individuality, that nobody should feel extra. Why should I remain Jewish? Why should I, let somebody else do it? There's a famous incident that there was a small town where there were 10 Jewish men, and every day they had prayer services. They had a quorum. And then the Lord helped them that an 11th family moved into town, and the next day they didn't have a minyan anymore. Because you can let somebody else do it. But if you know that you're the only one, then what I do is important. It's of cosmic importance. And the Jewish people per se, that's on the individual Jew, but the Jewish people as a whole per se, they are the conscience of the world.
That's a rabbi called Rabbi Beryl Wine, very famous rabbi. So I found that to be very interesting, that you look at the Jewish people, how we were persecuted, over the course of exile of the past 2,000 years, and our population stayed small. But the fact that we
Chinese, is it 2,000 years ago?
almost 2,000 years ago, yeah.
We're double us.
Yeah. And after the Holocaust, it was significantly less. The Jewish people have grown since the Holocaust. Okay, so what we see from the first verse is that the concept of being chosen seems to be like an inheritance. It says, your forefathers did God desire. So God loved and he chose Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob because they were special. And therefore, it's almost like this inheritance that anyone who is a descendant of the forefathers of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, then we are his treasured people. So it seems like it's something which is inherent in us. It's like in our DNA. We're Jewish because we come from the special family of the Israelites of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And that's why it's something you don't have to earn. It's something which is automatically baked into your DNA, that you are chosen because you are a descendant from this family from Abraham. That's what it seems from the first text. However, from other places, it seems that the concept of being chosen isn't just about this like thing that you just have in you, but it comes with more service, with responsibility. So this is 1.2. This is from the prayer that we do on all the festivals, from the Amidah in the festivals. At 1.2, Deborah.
You chose us from all the nations. You loved us and desired us. You raised us above all languages and sanctified us with your mitzvahs. You brought us close, our King, to your service, and you called your great and holy name upon us.
So over here, from this text, we see that being chosen means we were chosen to serve, to do the mitzvahs, to be sanctified, to serve God. So many people think that being chosen means that we're superior, we have this extra privileges. It's like a sort of VIP club that, we are in and everyone else is excluded from. But really what we see from here is no, actually chosen means we are chosen to serve God. So the question is, and we see this also by the giving of the Torah, 1.4, Yaron.
The Polish laborers, and one of them was the mathematics lecturer or a teacher, and he was asking us, me and my father, is it true when Jewish people meet each other, are they of horns, like, or something like this, come and then we speak like this?
Do you know where that comes from, that myth? The myth that Jewish people have horns. It comes from because it says in the Torah that when Moses came down from Sinai, from being up for 40 days and 40 nights, it says in Hebrew, he karan or panav, which means that his face was shining. Now the word karan, it depends which, the Torah is written with no vowels, right? So the real word is karan, which means shining. But if you read it Karen means a horn. So some people, they misinterpreted the Bible. It says that he came down from the heaven and he had these horns coming out of his face. That's where that's where it comes from. That's obviously a myth. So now the question is, so now in text 1.4, Yaron.
You shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation.
So by the giving of the Torah, God told the Jewish people that our job is to be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. We have a priest here. What does a priest mean? A priest is someone who serves. A priest isn't someone who just comes with privileges. A priest is a service. You have the people, and you have the priest who serves the people. So clearly, so the question is, which is it? Is the idea of being chosen an inherent identity that's just something that it's something we just have and it's rooted in the forefathers, or is it a mission and something that we have to do and we have to earn?
The translation here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the end, the goy means
a nation.
the nations.
Goy kadosh means a holy nation. Goy means a nation. People use goy as a non-Jew, but goy means a nation, meaning the nations of the world. But goy kadosh means a holy nation. So which one is it? Obviously, the Jewish answer, both. But now we want to understand what exactly does this mean that we're chosen. So we're going to now dig a little deeper. And we're going to take another verse also from Devarim, from Deuteronomy 2.1. This is a verse with the explanation, the commentary of Rashi, who is 11th century, Rashi, he's the main commentator on the Torah. So he picks up on nuances where every word in the Torah is exact. And sometimes when you just read it, it sounds like poetry and whatever, fluff. But no, every single word and letter, if you think about it, is very exact. And Rashi comes to examine that. So, Isabel, do you want to read 2.1?
For you are God, your God. And God chose you to be his treasured people from all the nations on the face of the earth. Rashi, for you are a holy people. You have your own holiness from your forefathers, and additionally, God chose you.
What Rashi is coming to do is the verse seems to be saying the same thing twice. First, it says, "You are a holy people to God," and then it seems to repeat itself. And God chose you to be his treasured people. Why does it have to say both phrases? So Rashi says those are two actually layers of what it means that the Jewish identity. The first layer is the fact that we have this inherent holiness that's just like the Jewish soul. We call the Jewish soul. It comes from our forefathers. It's like in our DNA. And that is the first level. It's just something which is baked in us. You don't have to do anything to get it. It's just there. And then additionally, the second part of the verse is saying, in addition to that, God chose you. And that second type of choice, that's what happened by Mount Sinai, where God chose us with a mission to serve. That's what he chose us for. He chose us to be a priest. And we'll see soon more what that means. So let's begin with understanding what these two layers are. So you have your own holiness, which is from your forefathers, and in additionally, God chose you. So those are the two layers of the Jewish identity. And now we're going to explain what these two are. So we're going to start with the first one. What is it? What is the Jewish soul? What's special about the Jewish soul? What is this thing that we inherit from the forefathers? So 2.2, Talia.
You are children of God, your God. Thus says God, Israel is my firstborn son.
So this is the relationship of a father and a child, that we are children to God. Now, what is the analogy of being children to God? What is the meaning of that? So just like a child comes from his parents, physically, the father has to, it says it comes from his, his brain, the semen, and then from there as the child is born, and the child is an extension, literally a part of his parents. In fact, there's a phrase in the Talmud that says that "bira kara davo," which means that a child is almost like a limb of the parent, like an extension of the parent. So this is in the very foundational text of the Tanya, of the Hasidic teachings, the first Chabad Rebbe. Tal, you can continue reading the next one. He explains further what this means that we're children of God. What does it mean?
The second soul in a Jew is literally a part of God above. As the Zohar says, one who blows from within. Just as a child is drawn from the mind of the father, so too the soul of every Jew is drawn from God's thought and wisdom.
So what it means is, the term that it speaks about Adam, when God created Adam, that he blew the soul into his nostrils. Now, the rest of creation, God created through speech, right? We know the 10 utterances. He said, "Let there be light," and there was light. "Let there be a sky," and there was a sky. So the rest of creation came from God's speech. But the soul, the Jewish soul, comes from his breath. What's the difference between speech, between talking and breathing? How long can you talk for without getting tired? You can keep talking and talking, right? Now try to breathe. After about 10 or 15 seconds, right? Unless you're like an expert breath worker or whatever, you get tired out. Why? Because talking, it comes from the more external parts of a person, whereas breathing comes all the way from your depths, from your lungs. In English, we call it from your kishkas, from your intestines. You breathe it out, and it's coming from a deeper part of the person. Now, over here, we have to, of course, explain that everything that we speak about God, when we use physical descriptions, it's not literal, because God isn't physical. God doesn't speak. He doesn't breathe. So what does it mean that, God created the world by saying, "Let there be light," or "Let there be this"? And what does it mean that the soul came from breathing? It's all just an analogy to say that just like a person, when you speak, it's more of your external essence that comes out when you speak. Whereas when you're breathing, it's your deepest essence that comes out. So that's what it means, that the rest of the world, God created it. He was invested in it, but he's much more invested, much more deeply invested in the soul. And that's what it means, that the soul is a piece of God. So there's a few different words for soul, nefesh or neshama. Yeah. So when we're saying over here, they were saying that the soul is literally a piece of God, which means that it's God literally took of himself. And just like, again, this is what it means being a child of God. Just like a child literally comes from his parents' DNA. we literally come from God more than the rest of the world that was just a creation of God. We're not just a creation of God, we are literally a part of God. So to give you an example, to explain that a little more, let's say you're a carpenter. So, you spend, a full day or maybe a week, your best skills, and you build a beautiful table out of wood. So you built it, it's your creation, but is the table you? No. You are somewhat expressed in the table because you expressed your style, your skill. Maybe if you're an artist, you expressed yourself in the art, but ultimately it's a completely different thing from you. Whereas compare that to a child. You give birth to a child is part of you. So that is the first level of the Jewish soul, is that we are literally a part of God. And that's what it means that we are the children of God.
Well, I don't just that though.
Now, because of that, therefore, it's not like being chosen is something that we have to earn. It's like we have this sort of job description or a mission from God. And let's say if I'm a bad Jew and I don't do my mission, or, then maybe I'm not Jewish anymore. But if here we're saying, no, think about a child. A child can rebel against his parents. A child can try to denounce himself from his parents, but nothing he can do can change the fact that he is a child of his parents, whether he likes it or not. He might need years of therapy to, yeah, it's forever. It's something which cannot be taken away. It's a part of him. It's his DNA.
Hopefully it is the Jewish people coming back to Israel.
Yeah, so the same thing as the Jewish people. No matter what we do or don't do, it doesn't change the fact that we have that soul in us. And that's why the Talmud actually has an argument, as it likes to do with different rabbis, that it says you are children of God. Well, is that only when we behave nicely or even when we don't behave nicely? So one rabbi says, no, when you're serving God, then you're his child. When you're not, then you're not his child. But Rabbi Meir, 2.4, Cyril, 2.4. Yeah.
You are children of God, your God. Rabbi Meir says, either way, you are children of God.
Either way, it means whether you serve him or don't serve him, whether you're good or bad, it doesn't make a difference. You are always his child. And then if you can carry on to the next one, 2.5.
Even though he sinned, he remains a Jew. I cannot exchange them for another nation. We have sworn to the Holy One, blessed be he, that we will not exchange him for another God. And he swore to us that he will not exchange us for another nation.
So we can't change our God, and God can't change us as being his people. It's just the way it is. It's baked into the DNA of the world, and we are his children. That is, contrary to what other religions might say, that, the Jewish people were maybe once God's people, but then it changed and this and that. We're saying clearly, no, we are always God's people. We're always his children. Nothing can change that. Now, that is the first layer of the Jewish identity of being chosen. And that is something which came from the forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And that is the idea that we're a child of God because our soul is literally a part of God, just like a child is an extension and a part of their parent. Now, after that, what happened by Mount Sinai? So this is like the Rashi said before, the second part, the second layer is that by Sinai, the Jewish people were chosen to be God's servants. So, Deborah, do you want to read 2.6?
When you take the people out of Egypt, you will serve God on this mountain.
So this is Moses speaking to Pharaoh, God speaking to Moses, what he should say to Pharaoh. Go tell Pharaoh that the Jewish people have to go for 3 days to serve God on the mountain, right? God was saying is that the Jewish people were redeemed from slavery, not just so we can just go off and be free people and just go on and sunbathe on the beach. He took us out of Egypt for a purpose with a mission to go, cross the sea, 49 days. They came to Mount Sinai and they got the Torah. That was the purpose. The purpose was to get the Torah, which was a guidebook, how to make the world into the way that God intended it to be. God created the world with a plan, how he wanted the world to be. But he didn't create the world already the way he wanted it to be, because then it wouldn't be fun, right? Imagine he would have just, it's like you're playing a game. You won before you started. God wanted that there should be a game. So he created the world with imperfection. He created the world with evil, with bad, with choice, with good and bad. And he had an intention of what the end result of the world should look like. So he had this will. Now, part of the game was, if you're like a software engineer, you build into the software a mechanism or a tool, a skill to use to be able to get to that result. And that is the Jewish people. So he embedded the Jewish people, hoping that they're going to take on this mission that he gave us by Sinai to make the world the way he wanted it to be.
So we were exiled from Egypt by God or by
Yeah.
the Egyptians?
Both. God already told Abraham, as we learned last week, when Abraham fell asleep, it's called the covenant of pieces, between the pieces, where Abraham had a vision of the future of the Jewish people. So God told him that your descendants will be slaves for 400 years and then they're going to be redeemed. So it was already part of the plan, was that they should go to Egypt and they should elevate the sparks in Egypt. That was the reason why they were there. And then they should leave Egypt in order to receive the Torah and become God's nation. So that
We cannot claim Egypt now?
no. So the Rambam, Maimonides, actually
I can claim Egypt on
So-
the basis that we were once in Egypt and we were exiled, then we should claim Egypt too.
No, it's a very big question. It's a bit not on this topic, but it's a big debate philosophically whether if God knows everything, how can you punish the bad people who've done the bad things if that was God made them do that, right? I'm just gonna take a glass of water.
Out from Egypt, we can't claim Egypt
So
anywhere.
there is actually different opinions. The Rambam, he asked that question.
But we can't claim Syria.
I'll tell you very short what the Rambam's answer is.
The flats. Nothing better.
The Rambam answers is that the decree is that the plural, meaning the nation of Egypt will enslave the Jewish people, but not on the individual. So if one specific Egyptian goes and whacks a Jew and beats him, he had choice to that. Meaning it had to have happened as a whole, that the Jewish people will be slaves to the Egyptians. But every single individual can make a choice, will that be me to do that or not? And therefore, if they do it, they deserve punishment. This is the Rambam's opinion. Maimonides, other
But chosen to be that nation.
right. So the question is, if each person would make a choice not to do it, then how would it happen? It's going down a rabbit hole. Anyway, so there are two levels of being chosen. The first one is like a child, that came from the forefathers. The second one is being a servant, and that was the mission which we received when we got the Torah. Now, in modern English, the term servant has some sort of negative connotation, like, being a slave. So we're saying, are we being like slaves to God? No, so servant means in ancient texts, it means a level of devotion to God. The difference between, let's say, a prince or a servant. So take, let's say, I don't know, Prince Harry. He decided, I don't want royalty. I'm not in the mood, so off I go. But a servant is someone who is committed, whether I wake up and I'm in the mood or not, I'm going to stand at the time where I'm, that I'm meant to, in the place that I'm meant to. So a child naturally has a level of connection and love for his parents. But, maybe one day the child's not in the mood. But a servant is someone who serves no matter what. That is the level.
By a king, also the Christian king, is God in his eyes.
Well,
The king, this one or any other king in the world currently, also in a believer, he serves God.
believes that.
He believes
Yeah.
that he serves God.
Okay.
So ordained from God.
The king of England, for
Yeah.
example, when he swears to serve God.
Which God?
True. That's true.
Well, it's the same God. Well,
Yeah. And it is true. It says that.
Say about exactly this. He's literally defender of the faith.
Yeah.
But it doesn't say what faith. And you've seen the pictures of him. You've seen what's been going on in Windsor. So there's a big thing about this because it doesn't say Christianity. Just says-
Right. So, but the general concept, it says in Aramaic that the kingdom of below is similar, is like a reflection, not a reflection, is like a miniature version of the kingdom from above, which is God. Which means to say, the concept of having kingship or having royalty here in this world is actually it comes through in Kabbalah it's called the Ishtalshalut, which means the chain of creation. Everything comes down from God through different levels spiritually until it comes to this world. So, for example, we spoke of that once that the different animals, the animals come from the animals that are under the chariot of God, as explained in the vision of Ezekiel. That there's the animals under the chariot of God. There's the a lion and an eagle. So that is the source, the spiritual source of animals. Okay, so royalty, someone who's a king, king of a country, there is even Judaism does acknowledge that is real royalty, and that it comes from spiritual royalty, but just in a lower level. And that's why we pray in many Siddurim. There's a prayer for the royalty. Even in Tsarist Russia, when the Jewish people were oppressed by the Tsarist Russia, they prayed for the Tsar's well-being. Yeah. Okay. So
The Arab country, Morocco, there's also different investigator for the king and stuff like this.
yes. So there are, I don't want to get too deep into this, but there are basically three levels of choosing something. The first level is you choose, let's say, a friend based on his qualities. So, thank you. I've got a bit of a sore throat. So there's three levels of choosing. The first level is, let's say you choose a friend. So that is the lowest level, because you choose a friend. Why do you choose a friend? It's because of their qualities, maybe their personality, kindness, their loyalty. What happens if that changes? What happens if, one day they betray you or they do something really nasty to you? Are they still going to be your friends? No. That is the first level of choice. You choose something, but that's called conditional love. You love someone, or you choose someone, you have a relationship, but it's conditional. It's based on a specific reason. Second level is like a parent to a child. Do you love your child because of how smart they are or how talented they are? Is that why you choose them and love them? No. You love them regardless. Maybe you're proud of them because of their accomplishments, but you love them just because they're your child. So that is the second level, and that's what we're saying, that God chose us to be His children. It's something which is innate, and it's something which is not earned or dependent on anything. But then there's even a higher level than that. How can you be higher than choosing a child? Because even when you choose a child, there's still a reason why you're choosing them, because they're your child. Even though it's something which you can't change, you're still choosing them because they're your child. The relationship has a certain limitation. It's, they were born to you, and that's why you love them. And ultimately, your child is not you. Your child is a separate human being. Eventually, they'll go on and they might be an extension of you, but they're not your very essence. So the Hasidus gives an analogy. If a person is choosing between an apple and an orange, do you want an apple or an orange? And you choose one of them. So let's say you choose the apple. Do you really want the apple because you chose it, or because the apple, you like the apple better? Right? If you like an apple better than an orange, so really the apple is choosing you, not you're choosing the apple. The apple is choosing you.
If I like the orange and the apple.
Oh, or if you have two identical oranges or two identical apples, right? Yeah. Just gonna get a tissue. I think water is good for now. Okay. So anyways, without getting too into that, so there's 3 levels of connection. You've got qualities, which is you choose someone based on their quality. And that level, it's conditional. If the quality leaves, if the person becomes, your friend becomes, disloyal, you leave them. Then you've got the unconditional, which is like a child. But the highest level of choice is when God chose the Jewish people just because he chose us for no reason. And that happened at Mount Sinai. It's the highest level, even more than being a child. He just chose us. Okay, without getting too into that, but that's that idea. Now, the next part of the lesson. Okay, so we know that the Jewish people were chosen. But what were we chosen to do? What is our mission? What is our purpose? So 3.1, are we up to, I think, Deborah?
3.1. I was created to serve my maker.
So this is the mission statement. You know, if you have like a company, they have like a one-line mission statement. Maybe I will have a tea. Just struggling with my sore throat. So we were chosen to serve my maker. But what is this vision? The Talmud. It's attracted in the Talmud. So God created the world, as I was saying before, he had in mind a vision of how the world should be. And he chose us as with a national mission to be the ones who carry out his will. But what is that will? What does he want the world to be? What does he want us to do in the world? So Deborah, do you want to continue reading 3.2?
Blessed be he, created the world. He designed to have a dwelling place in the lower realms. It is well known for the teaching of, how do I say that? Hazal, that the purpose of the creation of this world is that the Holy One, blessed be he, desired to have a dwelling place in the lower realms.
Hazal and sages are the same.
Yeah.
Because sages is all the.
No, it's the same thing.
It's exactly the same.
Yeah.
At one point.
Mm-hmm. Chazal is a abbreviation. It stands for Chachamenu Zichronam Levracha. Yeah. All right. So what was God's vision for the world? That the lowest of the realms, which is this physical world. So there are spiritual realms, angels and all that. But God wanted that this physical world should be a dwelling place for God. What does that mean, a dwelling place? Just like, the way a person feels in their own house. That's why that tea is fine. So God basically he created this world, but unfortunately, he doesn't feel very much at home in the world, which is sad because he's created the world, but he is so great that he created the world in a way that he was concealed. He concealed himself from the world that he made. And he gave the ability for people to, deny him or go against him, do evil, and all of that. Why did he do that? Because he wanted that we should transform the darkness to light. If there would be no darkness, if the world would just always be light, it would be like Gan Eden, like heaven. Again, there would be no purpose. It would be boring. For that, God wouldn't need this physical world. He would suffice with the spiritual realms, where you just have goodness and light and spirituality. But for God, that's boring. He wants a novelty. He wants something new. He wants some fun. So he's like, let me make a world where there's evil. Let me make a world where there's darkness. Let me make a world where no one can see me and see if they can find me. Let's play hide and seek. That's a game. And our job is to do that, is to uncover. It's like you're playing a scavenger hunt and you have to go and uncover the hints and find the sparks like we spoke about last week, about why the Jewish people were dispersed through the diaspora in different countries around the world, in the four corners of the world, in order we should go and elevate sparks wherever we are, in all the different countries that the Jewish people ended up in. And we should make God feel comfortable in this world just as much as materialism is comfortable in this world and pleasures and all of that. That holiness should also be comfortable. It should become the norm, just like physical living is the norm. That's a big, big task. So that's the what. But now the question is how? How do we do that? That's a big question, right? So, who are we up to? Yaron 3.4.
This is the whole purpose of man, and the purpose of his creation, and the descent into this world, that God should have a dwelling place specifically in the lower realms to transform darkness into light, until the glory of God fills the entire physical earth.
Yeah, here you have a picture of a house. So God wants to feel at home in this world. He doesn't want to feel like he's, not invited to the party. So the question is about, well, how do we do that? I mean, that seems like a tall order because the world is really big and I'm just one individual. Or even as a nation, we said before, we're a very small nation. So how can we do that? So in Tanya, the Alter Rebbe explains a very fascinating idea. And this is the idea is that when you do a mitzvah, you take a glass of water, you make a blessing, you use it to help yourself to be healthy or to be able to, give a class or learn a class. Then by doing that, you're elevating the water. Okay? And when you do a mitzvah, that's another example of a mitzvah. When you to give some of your money to charity, so that then you're elevating that money. But the world, how do you elevate the whole entire world? How do you transform the whole world to become God aware? So the Alter Rebbe explains a fascinating idea, and that is, when you do a mitzvah with one object, you elevate not just that object alone, but the whole chain, the whole chain of creation, meaning to say the whole supply chain. So, for example, this is an example. You take a pen or a pencil, and you use the pencil to do a mitzvah. What mitzvah can you do with a pencil? Use it to study Torah, or you can use it to write a check for charity, or you can use it to write a good, a kind message to someone, when you do that, you're elevating not just the pencil alone, but think, what did it take to make that pencil? Well, there was wood, so someone had to go and chop down wood for timber. Then there was the graphite, someone had to go in some other country and mine the graphite. Then there was machines involved, and metal and the rubber for the eraser. Then there were trucks that had to transport the different materials. And in the truck, in order for the truck to be able to drive, there had to be diesel, energy. So if you think about it, before you know it, you've got massive, massive parts of the world that are all in the supply chain to come to this very pencil to use for a mitzvah. When you go then and use that pencil for a mitzvah, you elevate not just the pencil itself, but all of those things that went and all the people that were involved working in the factories to do that mitzvah. All of that gets elevated.
Like say that there's loads of pencils made by that same tree, would elevating the tree with that one pencil then elevate all the other pencils made by the same tree?
Possibly.
Yeah.
If we only knew.
Just works backwards, not sideways.
Maybe. All right, let's take another example. You eat food for a mitzvah. You use it for Shabbos, or you make a blessing. You eat it to be healthy, so you can, serve your family. You're elevating. Let's say you eat a piece of bread. The whole field of grain and the farmers and Waitrose and the store and the bank that finances the baking of the bakery and the bread making. All of that gets elevated. And when you think about it from that way, you realize that a little small thing has tremendous power.
When we say elevate, that is pleasing God.
Yeah, what it means is that everything is God. If you had to summarize the whole Torah on one foot, or the whole Kabbalah on one foot, everything is God and God is everything. This cup is God. We don't see it because God, he concealed himself. So what makes this cup exist? There's a godly force, from the 10 utterances. The God said, let there be light. He said, let there be a cup, but we don't see it. So it's hidden. When you become aware that this cup was created by God, and then you use it for something positive, by doing that, you're basically bringing the consciousness to the forefront. That's what it means. By doing that, that's what it means to elevate it, to make aware and bring the consciousness that everything is from God and is there as part of this sort of cosmic mission, that the world is all here for one purpose, to be used for a good deed and to turn the world into a better place. And all the different elements of the world are different ingredients in that cosmic mission. And we are the ones who have that mission. Again, this is what it means that we were chosen by Sinai to be a priest. It means that we were given this mission to elevate the world, to make it a dwelling place that God should feel at home in the world. Okay, so all of that sounds very nice, but what about the nations of the world? What do they have a unique role? And if yes, what is that? Now, in many religions, they believe that the only path to spirituality is to follow their specific path, their specific religion. And anyone who doesn't is either doomed to hell, or they have no point. They're unworthy, or they're pointless. Now, Judaism is very different. We believe that we were chosen, Jewish people, with a specific mission. That does not negate that other people also have a purpose and a mission. And that's actually the reason why in Judaism we do not proselytize. We don't, unlike other religions where part of the religion, some of them, is to get other people to convert to their religion. Judaism, we don't do that. If someone wants to convert, we don't give them necessarily an easy time because we need to see that they're serious, but they're definitely welcome to convert. But we don't proactively try to do that. What's the reason why? Why don't we try to convert people to Judaism? Anyone want to suggest? So some people will twist it the other way and say it's because we feel like we're an exclusive club, so we don't want other people to be part of the club. That's not the real reason. That's not the reason either. Yes, but why? Right. But if this is so perfect and it's just so amazing, why don't we try to get everyone to be like that too?
It says like that everyone has a place in Olam Haba.
Exactly.
You can follow the Noahide laws and accept Hashem, but you don't have to.
Exactly.
The extra responsibility of Judaism to merit that.
Correct. So that means is that every person has a mission. Non-Jews they also have a mission. And if they fulfill their mission, they also have a portion in the world to come. Imagine you have a company and one of the jobs is, a special job, and everyone wants to do that job, but then no one's going to do the other jobs. It's not going to work. There are different jobs and everyone has to do their job. So the Jewish people, we have our job, which is to keep the 630 commandments, transform the world to a holy place, to bring God's awareness to the whole world. But other people, they also have a purpose. So let's learn, what is their purpose? So the first thing is, we'll establish that it's in text 4.1. This is from Pirkei Avot. Beloved is man, for he was created in the image of God. And this is referring to all men. All human beings are created in the image of God. That's why the Torah views all people, regardless of race, ethnicity, religion, beliefs, etc., background, behavior. All people are to be treated with dignity, respect, and value, because every human being is created in the image of God. And this is actually one of the values that Judaism teaches to the world, which we'll see soon. The idea of being a light to the nations is the very fact that we treat life with such respect, all life, Not only human life, even animal life, we treat with respect. That is a very Jewish concept, but this applies to all human beings. And every human being, since they are created in the image of God, they have a purpose, they have a calling, and a mission from God. And in the Talmud says in 4.3, I think I forgot who started. Isabel?
4.3.
Yeah.
Every is obliged to say, for my sake the world was created.
Now that is very interesting. This is every single person. Again, this is not talking about Jews. Every human being says that the whole world was created for me. What does that mean? Is that a arrogant thing to say? Like, oh, the whole world should serve me because it's all here for me. Is that what it means? No, it means something different. It means that I am needed for the world's mission to be completed. Every person. And if I decide to just go to sleep for the rest of my life and not do anything, then the world would be missing one of the puzzle pieces that was needed. My mission, which is unique to me, that no one else can do, won't be done. So every person has to say the world was created for me. For my sake, the world was created, meaning to say that I have my part, my mission, which no one else can do besides for me. So what is the purpose of humankind? So in broad stroke, it says in 4.4, Isabel.
He did not create it for emptiness, he formed it to be settled. The world was created only for being fruitful or multiplying. As it said, he did not create it for emptiness, he formed it to be settled.
So this is the sort of the universal mission, is that God created the world, that it should be inhabited, it should be moral, stable, civilized place. For specific, there are 7 Noahide laws that the Torah says apply to all humankind. Basis for how to keep the world a civilized place. And in a way that is, again, this is what God wants from all of humankind. What are the 7 Noahide laws? Talia, 4.5.
The sages taught the descendants of Noah were commanded in 7 mitzvahs: courts of justice, the prohibition against blasphemy, idolatry, forbidden relationships, bloodshed, theft, and eating flesh from a living animal.
So these are interesting. These are 7 in total, and each of them is actually like a pillar. So, for example, we have no idolatry. That is the idea of respect for the divine. So to believe in God, know that there's a one God. No blasphemy is not to curse God. Why is that important? Because that shows the idea of divine providence, which means that God, unlike some people that think that, God created the world and then he went to lunch. Meaning God created the world, but then he's detached from the world and he doesn't actually care what happens in the world. That's what some people believe. But then it wouldn't really matter if we curse God or don't curse God, like he doesn't care. But we're saying like God has feelings, so to say, meaning to say God is emotionally, he's invested in the world. He cares about what happens in the world. That's the second pillar. The third pillar is no bloodshed. That's respect for life. No theft is respect for people's property. No forbidden relationships. That's respect for the boundaries of families and relationships. Not to eat flesh that was torn off a living animal is an interesting one. So that means the animal has to be fully dead. Non-Jews, they don't have to eat, they're slaughtered in the kosher way, but what they're not allowed to eat is a live animal, or animal that was, because that would be, torture for the animal. So that's respect for all creatures. And then courts of justice is sort of the overarching that there should just be a civil society that runs based on, justice. Now, so that is interesting because even if there's a civil system that's not ideal, it's better than no system at all. That's what it says, because it says in the Pirkei Avot that if not for the fear of the government, then everyone would eat each other up alive. That's what it says. Meaning to say, even if the government has got problems, even big problems, and it's not ideal, having a system is better than no system at all. So this is the sort of the mandate for non-Jews. And if they do that, they have a portion in the world to come, just like a Jew. And 4.7, it says, "For indeed, the whole earth is man and righteous among the nations of the world are certainly precious to me." And then the next one, it says that even a non-Jew who studies Torah is just like the high priest. So we see very, very high praises are said about non-Jews who keep this general mission of creating the world as a civilized place, to keeping the 7 Noahide laws. And that is also part of what was commanded on Mount Sinai. So on Mount Sinai, actually, God gave the Jewish people 613 commandments. And he said, and part of what Mount Sinai was, he told the Jewish people is that you should teach everyone else that they have 7 Noahide laws, and when they keep that is how they're fulfilling their mission. Any questions? No. All right. Now, the last point here is that besides, up until everything we said till now, we're saying that the Jewish people, we have our mission, which is 613 commandments, make the world a dwelling place for God, transform the materialism into holiness by using the world for commandments. You elevate the whole supply chain to holiness. And non-Jewish people have the general foundational mission of making the world into a moral, ethical, civil place to live and inhabiting the world and keeping the 7 Noahide laws. Now, there's one last element to being the chosen people, and that is that not only were we chosen for our own path with our own mission, but also we have a responsibility, a duty to be what's called a light to the nations. Okay, so let's learn about that. 5.2 this is from Yeshayahu. So
I am God, I have called you with righteousness. I will hold your hand, guard you, and make you a covenantal people, a light unto the nations.
And then read 5.4.
A light unto the nations, to illuminate the eyes of all the nations, to know that God is the true God.
What that means, and by the way, this goes back to the first two, Abraham, which we are descendants of him. Part of the inheritance that we inherited, the soul from Abraham, the Jewish soul, is we also inherited his task. Abraham, he was the first one to come up with the idea of monotheism, that there's one God. But he didn't just keep it to himself. He went around spreading the idea of one God to all the people around him. There's all these stories. He was in the desert and he was hospitable and he used to get into conversations with people and debate them and teach them about God. So that is also a part of our job, is to spread the knowledge of God to the world. And what that means is again, it's not to say to try to sort of impose our beliefs on other people, but it's to teach them and make them aware that there is a mission for them too. Just like we have the Torah and the mitzvahs, but there is the 7 commandments, and it's part of our job is to actually teach the people of the world about the 7 commandments and how they can keep that too.
Noah is the people of the world.
Yeah. Yes. So, as a kingdom of priests is to teach. So, like we said before, also that that by the giving of the Torah, we were made kingdom of priests. What does that mean? That includes to teach all humanity to call the name of God. It's actually interesting. If I'm not mistaken, Hitler, he said that the Jewish people are the consciousness of God, something like that, right? And that's why he knew the truth, but he didn't like it because for him it was a threat. So you have to get rid of the consciousness, like trying to chase away the light, try to chase the light with a broom to get rid of the light. But the consciousness is there. There's nothing you can do about it. So Jewish people, we are the consciousness of God in this world. This is also going back to the video that we watched in the beginning. The rabbi said that we are the witnesses of God, meaning just the very existence of the Jewish people, the fact that we're still around today, the oldest nation that's still around today, that in itself is a testimony to God, to God's existence. And that is part of our mission, isn't just to keep our morals to ourselves, but to actually teach them to the people of the world. So we have a duty to do that, to become activists, not in a sense, again, as I was saying before, not in terms of trying to impose one beliefs on other people, but to the general concept that there is a God and there are morals and that it's important to keep to that. Like we said, sanctity of life, sanctity of other people's possessions, family, the 7 basic things, which are the universal ways of just living ethically.
Charity is not one of the.
It's part of justice. The word charity in Hebrew is tzedakah. Tzedakah comes from the word of tzedek, which means just. Giving charity isn't, right? Giving charity isn't, oh, I'm such a good person. I'm going to, my money really belongs to me, but I'm going to give it to charity. It's the just thing to do because the money was given to you. If you remember, we learned about wealth, about what giving money is given with a mission. Part of why we were given the money was we were like guardians over the money to use it in the right way. And part of that is to share it with other people as well, to give it to those that need. So
according to the Pirkei Avot, this is one of the 3 basics.
Torah. So just to summarize, actually, if you turn to the last page, do you have the takeaway text at the end?
Definitely, yes.
Yeah. So would you like to read that out?
Being the chosen people means that we have a connection to God that surpasses all external factors, pressures, and interference. But this connection also creates responsibility. It is responsibility to make the world into a dwelling place for God by bringing holiness and godliness wherever we go. It is also a responsibility to share Torah's universal message for the rest of the world, that every person has a mission and a purpose, and that every human being is precious in God's eyes. Together, every person and every nation can help bring the world to its intended purpose, transforming the darkness of this world into light.
So that is the thank you.
Thank you.
So hopefully we have the mission. We know what we're here to do, and now we can get to work. So now when you take a glass of water, it's got a whole new meaning. When you're doing this, you're elevating, the whole supply chain. So as long as you do it, do it in a good way, use it for good things, you make a blessing, or you eat kosher food or whatever it is, you're doing.
Time habits. There are many, many, many Jews who don't follow all the rules.
Mhm. No one follows all of them.
No,
No one.
it would be impossible.
Exactly.
But don't follow perhaps some of the core ones.
Okay.
For whatever reason, choice, circumstances. So how do they fall into this mission, if you like? If you're not doing as many mitzvahs as you would or should?
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Meaning, are they not part of this mission if they're not doing it right? Perfect.
Letting God down in a sense.
So I'll say 2 things come to mind. Number one is this is something that the Rebbe taught, is that instead of looking at our observance as an all or nothing, the Rebbe said, if you know Aleph, teach Aleph. What does that mean? Imagine you're learning the Jewish alphabet. There's 22 letters. Do you have to wait until you know all 22 letters before you start teaching someone else? No. Even if you know just an Aleph, you don't even know Beis yet. Gimel, you don't know the other. You only know the first letter. You can already go and teach someone else an Aleph. So every little bit, or this is why the Rebbe did this thing called the mitzvah campaigns. The Rebbe took 10 commandments, like tefillin for men, Shabbos candles for ladies, charity, loving a fellow Jew. The Rebbe made 10 campaigns, and he told his students, the Chabad students, to go to the streets, find the Jew and give them a Shabbos candle, put on tefillin. When the Rebbe did it, it was quite a pioneering, quite a revolutionary thing, because many of the sort of traditional Orthodox Jews, they looked at very down at that, because they're saying, what's the point? You just go to the street, you're going to put tefillin on someone, he's not going to put on tefillin again the next day. So what's the point? Unless you're going to like make, you're going to bring him in and he's going to become observant and he's going to start doing tefillin every day. But if you're just like going and putting on tefillin on someone once, or, you go and someone does a single mitzvah, what purpose does it have? And, and the Rebbe said, no, because every mitzvah spiritually is infinite value. Doesn't matter if they didn't do it yesterday or won't do it again tomorrow. Each single act has infinite value. That's one thing. Another thing is that there's a general concept, it was called in halacha, it's called tinuk shenishba, which means many people nowadays, in the past, post-Holocaust or whatever, grew up in unreligious families and communities and backgrounds, and didn't grow up with Judaism. So like me, for example, I grew up in a religious house, so a religious family and community. I went to Jewish school. So in a way, for me, it's not necessarily hard because that's what I was brought up. I didn't even know different. So whereas someone who didn't grow up with Judaism, for them, but anything that they're not doing isn't necessarily coming from bad intent. It's just, that's the way they were brought up and that's the way it is. And the Rebbe said that it's a very important distinction, is that when people when people were just brought up in a, not a Jewish environment or whatever it is, it's not the same as someone who, let's say, was brought up Jewish and then decided to like rebel and leave, the community. It's not the same thing. And it's not their fault. So that's another element. So one shouldn't feel that they're not doing their mission because they don't, they're not up to the level, or they don't know enough, or they're not ready to do it all. So number one, the first point is that each single action is infinitely valuable. It doesn't matter. Let's say if you eat kosher here, not if you go home and eat not kosher, but here you ate kosher. That was a mitzvah. One thing doesn't cancel out the other. That's one thing to remember. The other thing is not to be too harsh on yourself or feel bad, because if one was brought up in an environment, it takes time to, to slowly, we're all on a journey. What it says is we're all on a journey. It doesn't matter where you are on the ladder. It matters what direction you're going. So someone can be here or here. It doesn't make a difference where you are. It matters, are you going forwards or backwards? That's all that matters. So every Jewish person is a part of the mission. It doesn't matter what they look like, what their observance level is. Everyone is needed. And we all have a vital role to play in that.
Might be needed in the future to a certain point in the future to save somebody or to deliver something or.
Okay. Apologies for my sore throats.
Thank you for hosting this hour.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks to all the. Yeah. I'm sorry, Ben, I forgot to ask you to participate, but I hope you were able
That's no
to.
problem.
I'm sorry, I was a little bit distracted, but were you able to follow along?
Yeah, I got all that. That was great. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you for joining.
Hopefully back next week.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, bye-bye.